welcome all to this closing ceremony. Mr. Darby Allen, Mervyn Darby Allen would have given you all the basics about leadership and so on, and I'm not going to get too much into that. I would have heard the acronyms of peace and so on. All of these were dissected at length during your course. Let me say I'm not giving an address, so take that out of the thing. I'm just making some remarks. I want to, though, maybe change the tone a bit to talk about change, because the Royal St. Christopher Navy's Police Force, in fact, law enforcement generally in St. Kitts, is going through a period of change. We're talking now about community policing. We're talking about carry secure and evidence-based decision making. How do you as leaders fit into that new scenario? I'm going to suggest that if you're going to be a good leader, whether you're a corporal or a sergeant, or you just have a group of people going out with you one day, you have a responsibility to assist the police force, the customs, whoever, in dealing with the changes which are taking place. And you're not a good leader if you cannot cope with the change, if the people who are working under you do not understand the change. How do you as a police officer, corporal, sergeant, leader, what's your role in this changing environment? As a leader, you're going to have to understand the changes. You're going to have to be able to motivate your team to function maybe in a different way than they were accustomed to. Because the way we did things, well, not we, but the way police would have been doing things in the past, perhaps, just perhaps, some of those things have to change, especially, for example, as we begin to give a greater role to citizens in the Federation, how they interact with police, how police use citizens. And so, my challenge to you this morning is to take the basics which Mr. Allen would have given you and apply it to the changing environment in which you are going to go out there and work. Because it is no longer, I am a mathematician, and I've said elsewhere, that it's no longer a nice linear path, do this, do this, do this. You go that way, but sometimes you have to twist and turn and get back on track. The curves, and deal with those, and so on. And so how are you going to change? How are you going to cope with the change as leaders? What examples are you going to give? How are you going to motivate the persons under your command to cope with those changes? These are some of the things I want to challenge you. What's your leadership style going to be? Are you going to be just following the book? Or are you going to be a laissez-faire, lackluster type of leader? Or are you going to be the one who's going out there demanding, do this, you have to, and have confrontation? Are you going to be charismatic and work with people and get them to do things? What kind of leader are you going to be? Because you see, in this changing environment, depending on the situation you're in, you may have to use different styles for different people, for different situations. And so as you leave this course, as you leave this course, you have a responsibility to think a bit as leaders. Think a bit, because it's no longer just a plain do this, do that. So I want to leave with you on that part of it, coping with the changing environment in the customs, in the law enforcement agencies, generally the police. You have to function, because it's going to be a little different to what has been the norm. In terms of interviewing, we continue the same. Again, you would have learned all of the skills, and I think, and I'm not going into those. But the attitudes that you take in an interview situation, those are important. The skills of interviewing, of course, are important. Communication skills. I think somebody mentioned the importance of listening, because sometimes you may be asking questions, but the person just wants to talk. And while talking, they're saying good things, so you must know when to listen. Investigative interviews become very critical now with our rising crime situation, crime scenes, the customs dealing with visitors. We have to be vigilant. You must know when to probe and follow up, and eye contact. You're talking to them and they look suspicious. You must know what to do, and so on. So these skills that you would have learned are very critical going forward, and they're not divorced from what I was saying about change, because once ago you went through the motions, but now it becomes very, very important, even more important, when visitors come to our shores at customs or immigration, because we may be laying in a terrorist. We haven't had one yet in St. Kitts, but you may be the first one to see one, if you are good. So the people at customs, immigration, you out there in the community at a crime scene and so on, you have to be vigilant. And so I want to just, as I said, deviate. I'm not getting too much into the mechanics of your course, because I'm sure Mr. Allen would have spent 6 weeks here drilling all that kind of stuff. I am saying to you, when you leave this room, having done the course, there's a changing environment out there in the police force. Because no longer, we no longer want robots. You never had, probably. But it's not just about do this, do this, do this. It's about getting the rest of the police force to change in accordance with whatever new initiatives are being promoted. Otherwise, Mr. Darby would have wasted time. You have the mechanics. Apply it to the changing environment which you will meet out there. And if we say that we want a different role for police and citizens, then have you learned enough to accept and model your behavior to accommodate that change? That's my challenging question to you this morning. If we say we want evidence-based decision-making, and you're supposed to go out there and help us get evidence of certain types, where your investigative team may come in, and so on, are you ready to do that? That is my challenging question to you. If you answer yes, then this course would have been successful. If you are hesitant, then maybe we need to bring back Mr. Allen again and do some more work. Because out there it's not a yes, no. It's not a do this, do that. We need people who are going to be able to maneuver depending on the situation they find themselves in. I want to congratulate all of you for completing the course. I want to thank Ross University for assisting in the financing of the course and being part of this, because our private institutions or private security agencies and so on have an important role to play, because they are part of the changing environment. Even though they may be focusing on their own students and so on, they're out there with us. And so they are part of this. So I want to thank Ross for being associated with this initiative. So once again, to Mr. Allen, thank you. To you all, from my perspective as permanent secretary, I want to see people who are ready for the change, because the change has to come. The change has started, and as the leaders going out there, if you're not ready for the change, then we have a problem. Thank you very much, and good luck.